Episode 166 of Gaming and BS coming to you Tuesday, November 21st, 2017. Welcome to Gaming and BS, a tabletop RPG podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Sean.
And I'm Brett. Welcome to the show. Welcome back. How you doing, Sean?
I'm doing fantastic. That was a really shitty intro, but hey, what the hell, right?
Yeah, I'm tired. I killed something today, and I had to drag it up a hill and down a hill and through a valley. And this is
That's
long.
all you've been talking about is killing something, Brett.
Yeah, it's been a long day. It was good though. I mean, I went specifically out to kill something, and I did kill something. That was good.
Well, you know, it would have been more exciting if that something could kill you.
I don't know. I don't give anything that opportunity, Sean.
I think it's an unfair fight. I think you should give the deer a rifle.
I didn't say it was a deer.
Oh. Maybe it was a person.
Maybe it was the most dangerous game.
Maybe it was
Jason Hobbs.
Jason Hobbs.
You guys are crazy.
Yeah, a little bit.
Straight from Illinois. Illinois.
That's right. I'm so far away from you guys.
Jason Hobbs from the OSR Hobbs and Friends of the OSR.
All of them.
You butchered that show.
Oh, good.
All the friends are my friends. Even you guys.
All the friends are my friends. Yes. We can tell because you keep trying to poach our friends every time there's a post on any of our communities. Like, oh, you can just come to my community. We're talking about this stuff too.
Just let it be known, Tuesday the 21st, 2017 is the day that Gaming and BS jumped the shark.
They got famous.
Jeez, you are hammered.
I am a little tipsy.
That's great.
Get tipsy. All right, so let's dive into this.
Yeah, so announcements, evercon.org. Talked about this pretty much every show, so it's coming. It's January 5, 6, 7. Get out there, go to evercon.org. Pre-ed is still open. Get some games in there, get your badge. Love to see some BSers there to hang out with us. I know Alex Cameron will be there. We've got Chris Steele and his lovely bride will be in attendance, and hopefully be able to grab some other folks, so it'll be fun.
If Sean drives.
Anything on your side?
Yeah, if Sean drives from Milwaukee, I'll go.
Whoa. I'm not in Milwaukee.
I mean Madison.
Why am I going to go to Milwaukee and then go to Wausau?
I meant Madison. It's the same thing to Illinois.
Thank God we're doing this via video.
Yeah, exactly. So I have to slap the crap out of him.
Let it be known he is not in the Litterbox studio.
I didn't hear Sean saying, yeah, that's a good deal. I'll do it. No, he's like back. He's a wussy. You can't even get him to go to your con, Brett. What kind of friends are you guys?
Podcast friends. Oh, Lord. All right, let's do random encounter before this devolves even further.
Cat's out of the bag. Random encounter. Jesus Christ. Random encounter. All right. Who's going to start with Mr. Peter Skanes?
You are.
All right. Hi, BSers. Just doing a bunch of catch up on episodes after being away for a while, and I have a couple of comments. Play by Post was pleasantly surprised by this episode as it made me jump on the nostalgia train. I too remember all those ads in Dragon Magazine back in the 80s as Brett keeps moving text around on me and I'm trying to read this. Shit is just not right tonight. I never, continuing on, Peter did not say that last half. It was me. I never took part back then, but during the nascent days of the internet age, I took part in a bunch of play-by-email Star Wars games in the early 90s, as well as 2 Golden Heroes campaigns by email/Yahoo groups a little later. Both times they offered a much wider pool of players than my small Canadian hometown could. I'm sure that my story is nowhere near unique, and because of that, play-by-post was probably influenced our hobby a lot more than any of us can guess. I fully support Sean's passing comment a few episodes back. I think the gaming and BS community would greatly benefit from Dear BSers advice column. Maybe something crowdsourced to keep you two relatively sane. That's it for now. Keep up the good work. Peter Scaines, rhymes with stains. P.S. Sean, did you ever take part in the Star Wars RPG email listserv of the early mid-90s? Seems like it would have been up your alley. If so, our paths probably crossed back then. I have to admit, and I have to disappoint Peter, that I was not involved with Star Wars listservs back in the mid-90s. Although if I had probably known about it, I may have wanted to be. I was in the military at that time in the mid-90s. I was getting out. I got out in 96. And 93 to 95, I was over in Germany and not internet connected at that point. And then I don't think I got my first real PC until 95. Anyways, so yeah. Thanks for writing in, Peter.
All right, let's see. Yes, VC Young comments back on about episode 165, the most recent one. We're going to comment here about the subject, but email my full thoughts on Brett's Bees game to you guys so as to avoid potential spoilers. Oh, so that means VC's going to send me an email about how bad my Avalon game was at GameWorldCon. Oh, man. That's going to be... Someone needs to set me straight. All right. Yeah, Hobbs is in that game too, so both barrels. Anyway, VC goes on to say, changing something as simple as night and day in a game changes a lot of the dynamics of the game. During the day, our senses allow us to gather better information and come to quicker decisions on how to react to the situation. At night, we lose a percentage of that information and therefore can't make as well-informed a decision. A lion is a lion no matter what time of day it is, and the more than likely you and your PCs will book it when they see it watching them. At night, though, it could be the wind or a deer, or maybe Hobbs being an asshat in the bushes. They didn't even know he was going to be here. This is great.
Well, it's serendipitous.
Serendipitous. You just don't know what. You just don't know. So when you realize that it's not Hobbs, but it's Tony the human eating tiger, you avoided your bowels more than you would if you could have seen him. In Sean Kelly's game, doing gangster business during the day runs the risk of witnesses can testify, and that means you've got more work to do before you can kick back and not give a cannoli, Sean P. Kelly style. However, gangster business at night, easy peasy in the Rock River with you. Much lower risk of witnesses, but a higher risk of suspicion. And hey, Sean Kelly's pretty suspicious as it is, so what's a little more? Forget about it. Point is that changing a little thing like time of day has a big impact on how the game is approached. Imagine, Brett, how different your Iron Shoes game would have been if we couldn't smell and were in the middle of a famine. The kitchen scene might have changed your game a bit. But that's a different subject. So good show. Keep on doing what you do. Well, thanks, VC. That's good stuff, man. And I do see your email that did come into us, so I will give that a read outside of here. So, Hobbs, what do you think? If I'd have changed that game to make it run at night instead of during the day, do you think that would have been more interesting?
I mean, it was pretty interesting anyway. I think you did set a pretty good scene of a horror type show, that was definitely an aspect of the environment and the aesthetic that was working. It might have been a little different because you wouldn't have necessarily had like the guards being there, and like it wouldn't have been so easy to deal with some of the side stuff that happened. Either way, though, I mean, what do you feel the most comfortable with? I think will make it great.
Okay, cool. Sean, back to you, sir.
Blake Ryan responds to VC. Part of Fear of the Dark is we know that 99% of the animal kingdom is way stealthier than we are, and half of it operates better at night than we do. So every night is a highway to the danger zone. Cue Top Gun music.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Highway to the danger zone.
Continue.
A way to invert the daytime is fine angle is sun glare and wind. Sun glare off the sea or frozen tundra or rocky desert will reduce the distance you could see, thus encounters start much closer. Wind will cover up noises monsters make as they approach to pound your ass and naff your stuff.
Good point.
Naff your stuff.
Naff your stuff, dude. Don't get your stuff naffed. That's just dumb.
No. Getting your stuff naffed is not the way to go.
Never.
No. Hey, Hobbs, you ever had your stuff naffed?
I'm going to say yes. No to the no to the other part.
just one time in Vegas. Wow, we're gone there. Okay, so Sky Slayton, trying to drag us back to where we ought to be, posed a question on Google Plus. He said, "Hey BSers, this coming Monday, I'll be wrapping up the first arc of my first campaign. It'll be a pretty deadly set of encounters. Oh, deadly set of encounters. This is awesome. And I hope to push my players to the edge. My questions for y'all are, how do you prefer to end campaigns? Big boss battle, cliffhanger, etc. What was one of your favorite endings?" Sean, a while back, I think we talked about endings, but it's actually been a thing that's been nagging me a bit. I think we might bring it back and hash it out. But off the top, what do you like? How do you like to wrap up your campaign, Sean? If I was going to say you got to wrap up a campaign, is the big boss battle saying to you or what?
Everybody dies. It's a tragedy.
I would have to say death of a player.
Death of a player?
Character.
I would say Sean's preferred method is just casually not showing up anymore. The game just fails. And then no one
Right. Yeah. Just one of those, like, it was fun playing with you guys and then just not showing up the next few weeks.
Seriously though, do you like boss battles or what, Sean? Come on. Be serious.
I like cliffhanger. Stop. Right? They enter the room, see the big bad, and scene.
That's the end of the campaign?
Maybe.
You're crazy. That's what happens when the train pulls into the last stop. It's just, it doesn't quite get there. You stop before you even get to the station.
I look at it this way. I do not win, and the players do not win.
Everybody loses.
He actually did that to us in the Star Wars game where we got all, just barely escaping with our lives and everything went completely casters up and then end campaign, which was kind of fun. It was kind of cool. So Hobbs, when you're wrapping up a campaign, what do you do? Big fight, little fights? What do you do?
I don't know if I've ever wrapped one up, Brett. Seriously. I mean, I'm one of those guys that just kind of fades away. Maybe everyone gets sick of it and then that's it. If I could choose, I think I would go for some sort of big boss battle and wrap up a lot of the stories. So
isn't that interesting though? I think that actually what you said there probably happens more often than not. I mean, if I think back to the different campaigns I've run, at some point somebody raised their hand and says, yeah, I'm kind of bored with this. Can we do something different? Yeah, sure. The next thing you know, you're playing DCC for a couple, or hey, you tried this other thing, or BX is out, or hey, I'm going to try Blades in the Dark or whatever. And you do that for a bit. And yeah, that's interesting. Interesting. All right. We'll have to drag that one back up. I'll add that to the hopper.
It seems like you've ended a lot of campaigns recently, Brett. How did you end them? I mean, like, what happened to your Traveler game? What about your DCC game? Okay,
so the DCC game is everything. It was the huge boss battle because I thought that was really cool. Traveler game, they started and ended what? Excuse me, how do I do this? So they started an interstellar war with the the Khazinti, big nasty cat people. So we started a horrible war with that. Got enough information to prove that this one trade federation was actually behind a lot of the horrible atrocities that were happening, and we just wrapped that one up after a big battle where they were able to survive and kind of everything split, where you've got the most of the Federation, whatever, on one side, and then the Khazinti on the other, with just a constant raging war. And let's see, my Bad Magic game, that one wound up when they went through, beat the bad guy, and then Satan went around and offered everybody something, and they either accepted or turned them down.
That sounds legit.
So that's what I did.
Insert
Sean,
awkward pause here.
We ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. Let's get into me.
Let's do it. Let's go to main topic. Oh my God, this is maybe the worst show we've ever done.
All right, Brett, what are we talking about this week, and why the hell do we have Hobbs here?
Well, I figured it's been like 160 some episodes since we've had a really crappy, nonsensical show that really just kind of like no notes, no concept, awkward pauses. Hey, we could get to bring back the old, I'm talking old school Gaming BS Magic. We'll pull Hobbs on. oh, fuck this shit up bad. Anyway, Hobbs and I are sitting at Game Hole, and we're BSing, as we are wont to do, waiting for other people to start showing up, hanging out at the booth, doing whatever. We started talking about combats and how, having narrative combat, blah, 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 is really cool. And Hobbs said, combat as story. That's a huge component of a lot of really decent games or a lot of good stories, is having combat help you continue the storyline along. It's not like, hey, I just went in, killed some goblins, got some treasure, went to the next room, killed some orcs, got some treasure, then some hobgoblins or whatever. But tying that in so that there's reasons and so on, and every fight drives you closer to something else, just seemed kind of where we wrapped that up. And then, of course, people came by and we got distracted talking about other stuff. And I thought, we should bring Hobbs on the show and just kind of chat through this. So this is Jason's fault, mostly.
It always is. What do you think about that, Sean?
About it being your fault or combat as story?
You choose.
Combat is story.
Combat, I suppose it'd probably be a good topic to talk about, not why Hobbs is here. Uh-oh, I hear a cat.
It depends.
It depends. I would have to say combat is story. Yeah, no, interesting concept. Although I would have to wonder, like, what does that mean? What does that mean, combat as story?
So I know the guys from, I think Randy Farmer and Eli Kurtz on their Jingo Hustle, I think is the name of the show. I always mispronounce it. This director Mark, they just did a piece. So I end up kind of they beat me to the punch on this one. But in a lot of kung fu movies and so on, you'll have, or even Star Wars, right? So when Vader and Luke Skywalker, spoiler if you haven't seen Empire Strikes Back, when they're duking it out, it's not just a lightsaber battle for the sake of a lightsaber battle, right? Vader's pushing, prying, poking, trying to figure different things out. Then eventually, hey, the big reveal. And then later in, Return of the Jedi, he's there. And then there's a reason for the story. The Emperor there, Palpatine's trying to do a thing. Combat is the vehicle in which the bad guy is trying to get something done. Trying to corrupt and subvert Luke and so on. And then Vader's there poking him, talking about his sister and how, maybe I could get her to do that. And then Luke snaps and everything goes completely bananas and blah, blah, blah. And blue lightning at some point. But so when I think of combat as story, it's more than, it's kind of, when you walk into the dungeon, even in an OSR style game or any kind of game where you're going into a dungeon, and you come upon a tribe of goblins, and not just little juicy bags full of hit points and experience that drip gold. They're there for a reason, and they act like it. When they throw their hands up and say quarter, we yield. We promise we can get you to, the great, whatever, the beholder in the center of the dungeon. Really? What? There's a beholder here? Yeah. Oh yeah. We can tell you all about it. Having these things be, again, more than just little things to wail on is a lot more interesting. Hobbs, am I on the track there for what you were thinking as well, or am I off?
No, yeah, you're definitely getting there. In my tradition of playing where, I don't really write any stories and everything is kind of, just an open sandbox and you run into stuff, and a lot of encounters are created through random rolls. It doesn't mean that there isn't something happening. And if all they are is, like you say, bags of hit points, it's not going to be any emergent stories, right? So you usually create a reason that whatever is there for a reason. And most of the time, people are going to try and kill things and take their stuff. So if you can have them arguing with each other, or like in my Kalmata game, which is my own hex crawl. It's close to West Marches. I wouldn't say it's identical to what they said. But anyway, there's stuff going on. And the only time you're ever going to get that story across is if the NPCs or monsters interact with the players. And if all they're doing is fighting them all the time, they have to talk while they're fighting, right? They have to be yelling stuff, or maybe they're cursing an unknown god, or maybe they run away very easily, and you could over time figure out why that is. But if they're not parlaying, then that information has to come out at the only time they're interacting with the player characters. So that probably means combat. Does that make, that's kind of where I was coming from when I said it, for sure.
I like that. I like what you're saying there, especially when it comes to players on players, or even, I'm not talking like straight PvP, but when you have, if you're describing the scene, the combat's going, and Sean's character's down, and I look at you and go, Hobbs, what do you do? Sean's down. I mean, he just got smacked. What do you do? And you're like, well, hang on, I'll finish this guy off and then I'll go help him. Whoa, dude, the fuck? There's story that happens there. Characters can build on, like, what the hell is wrong with you? I was in dire need and you did nothing for me. You can save somebody. You can do any number of different things, even as a player to the other players, or have they watch you and so on. I mean, that's where, from anybody who's an X-Men fan, you had the fastball special, which is when Colossus used to pick up Wolverine and chuck him into a bunch of robots and just shred the shit out of them. That was just his thing. That was a combat move that helped to build the bond between them. So I think that's another type of story, even if it's just kind of inter-party story. That's another way to go about it. Sean, you picking this up, or you just staring blankly at us here?
You can definitely. Well, I'm guessing this is what he always does, Brett.
I don't know why I put up with you yahoos.
No, for sure. I mean, like, even in my example, in the games I run, I'm playing BX. So the differences between characters are very few. There's not a lot of granularity between the characters. So a lot of times the people don't even know, the players don't know what their character is going to be like until we start playing. And so when you decide that, like you say, oh no, I'm going to finish this guy off because otherwise we'll die unless I try to stop you or save you or whatever. And so that makes sense to me, Sean.
So what we're talking about is dialogue versus in combat.
Well, not just dialogue as combat, but when the combat itself. So the bad guys can emote in lots of different ways. If your bad guy is screaming bloody murder, he's calling out to, Korn or Cain, the god of murder, and he's just doing crazy something or other. Wow, these people are insane. That tells me something about their god, their lord, whatever they're coming from, right? And then if we get into when you defeat a person, even if the bad guy says nothing, it's just silent. They don't say a goddamn thing. But at the end of it, you find out that they've all had their tongues cut out, or they all are wearing a medallion, or they're all looking a certain way. Even that, as simple as it is, there's clues and things you can pull together to continue the story.
Well, I mean, I've read a lot recently of people talking about what a grind 5th edition is during combat. So this is another way to maybe spice it up. So instead, if people aren't really doing dynamic activities where maybe you're tossing out inspiration or giving advantage or maybe even disadvantage for bad choices, but if the NPCs, the adversaries at least, are interacting during the fights. I mean, back in the day when you were watching a swashbuckler movie, and guys were saying stuff as they fought, that was an intrinsic part of that storytelling. And there's no reason that when we're running games, we couldn't include that, right?
Princess Bride, right?
Yeah.
So you're using Barnetti's defense against me. The whole
it shows that he's well schooled in different types of combat techniques. That's interesting, and that tells some sort of story that can be built on later, even if like a player just makes it up and starts saying he's saying some crap during a game and making, oh no, I learned in the school of Champichelli or something like that, and everyone's like, oh, that guy's a terrible fighter. Why would you learn there? And he wins or something, then something, comes out awesome. Of it somehow. Then that's just adding context and other stuff to your game. So.
I think sometimes it's even just as simple as knowing the backstory of the combat. Why are we having this fight? We're having this fight because the goblins live here. We're having the fight because there's bandits in the woods. Why are the bandits here? It was a random encounter. Well, for me, anytime I have a random encounter, if I pull it off a chart or if I make it up, there's a reason that they're there. The bandits are starving. They take the money, they give it to their mother. I don't know, whatever you make up, or they're actually bloodthirsty cultists, or however you want to play it. But there's a reason why people are fighting you. Even if the ogres are fighting to the death, the reason they're fighting to the death is because this is their fucking home and you've invaded it, right? wow, these aliens on this planet sure do like this planet. It's their home planet, asshole. Of course they like this planet. That's why they're fighting you. So tooth and nail, claw and fang and whatnot. They don't want to give it up. And understanding that having creatures with a reason to fight, and then it's just one step towards making that into something that you can then plunk right into your story. If you decide at the time, well, the goblins really don't want to fight to the death, boy, they're getting their asses handed to them. Wow, I think one of them might give up. And then someone in the party, Hobbs, goes, why should I let you live? Do you know something? Yes, I do. There's a secret entrance. I can get you through there, back to over here, or whatever. It's one more way, I think, to move your story along, other than just one long protracted battle from dungeon entrance to dungeon finale.
Yeah, I was just thinking, I think it would be a cool aspect if you were going to use like some of the dice from FFG Star Wars even. Sometimes, an advantage may come up during the combat, but it wouldn't necessarily have to be a combat advantage. It could be a story piece that comes out during the Blazer fight or whatever. I mean, have you ever done anything like that, Sean?
Yeah, there's been foobars that have occurred during adventures where something will happen, their gun will jam, or they'll score a critical, or they'll hit a crate blocking something. I don't know if it's as much story as it is objects that get thrown in the way, make things maybe tougher, maybe easier. Maybe it's some goofy triumph that occurs that, the whole party yells and screams, yay. And I sit there in disgust as I look upon them get their way. But, yeah, I mean, it's something that I could see happening, well, especially with the FFG Star Wars mechanics and the dice. But, we're also have to think about, communication. It's, if you guys are talking about forwarding a story and having dialogue, you got to have a dialogue with beasties that actually can talk and converse in some way or another. Right? You're not having an Ankeg come up through the freaking ground and you're like, whoa, isn't that cool? I'm going to ride him. Hey, what's up, Ankeg?
Probably not in that situation, but the players could still drive their own stories forward in a fight like that if they have something going on, like one guy trying to outshine the other or whatever, if I kill this Ankeg, I'm taking his mandibles home or whatever. And they're like, no, I'm taking him to your mom.
Right.
I don't know.
As you would, right?
could be all sorts of stuff.
I think you make a good point, Jason, is that with the players too, part of this from a story perspective is sometimes the opportunities there in that Ankeg battle to, when it goes really well, you're playing DCC or a game with critical hit charge, you go, wow, that was freaking amazing. Or after 5 attempts of using my blaster in my FFG Star Wars game, it keeps jamming. I'm like, that's fucking it. This blaster's gone. And then Brett, as player, decides that next space station we go, no matter what it is, I'm getting her this blaster. I will never buy another one, And then you just that piece of it, the fight becomes something that is a story point.
So do you Yahoos, do you guys allow the characters to meta sometimes during the combat? So it's like, okay, whose turn is it? It's mine. I think I'm going to go next. Okay, what are you going to do? Well, I think I'm going to cast a spell. Okay, well, I'll just wait for you to do that.
No.
Do you guys do that at all?
No, there's no holding your action in BX. So if I'm in a game
No. Don't get confused with the rules. Like, I got to hold my action. I'm talking about the dialogue piece.
Oh, okay.
I don't get what you're saying.
Take out my example of holding the action and just say, do you allow people to talk like that during a combat?
Yeah, some I will. Yeah, I mean, you got to have a monologue if you're playing like a Supers game or something. People talking takes no time in Champions, right? So
I'm talking. I'm missing my point. I'm talking about not in the game. I'm talking about metagame. Hey, what are you going to do when it's your turn? Well, I'm going to go and punch him in the face. All right, blah blah blah. Then I'll plan on doing X and Y. Do you play?
Yeah, it depends on the game. I have allowed that to happen. Sometimes it just naturally occurs, but 9 times out of 10, it doesn't really happen because the combat's just happening. People are like, I'm going to do this. Everyone kind of sorts out what's going on. Why? Is that a problem?
I would say if they do, I kind of will. But if it gets to a point where there's analysis paralysis going on, then I'll be like, all right, what are you going to do? Ask that individual. But I mean, most of the games I run are so deadly that it doesn't bother me. I'm not stuck in the immersive level. You know, if you're going to talk like Misdirected Mark does about the layers of gaming, I'm not stuck in that, you know, you can only play your character and you can only speak what your character would say most of the time, because I don't think the game was written that way. It's a social interaction, so I'm going to let the people be social, you know. But if it gets to a point where, I mean, if it goes on for a couple minutes, I'm going to be like, all right, no, Sean Dusher, what are you going to do? I don't care what Brett's doing. What are you going to do? You know, I will call it out like that if it's necessary, but I don't mind that much usually. But obviously you do.
Well, the reason I bring that up is because it may tie into this dialogue piece that like the lines may blur a little bit. That's all.
I think it absolutely can. So like in my instance where, you know, I'm describing combat or whatever, and I look over at Hobbs, I'm like, dude, Sean, you just saw Sean get pasted by that ogre. And Jay's like, sorry, I'm busy. And Sean's like, you're the fucking cleric. What's wrong with you? I can't get there, dude. There's no way. I'm up to my, you know, ass, literally my ass in owlbears right now. I don't have time to get to you. That type of thing happens at a table regularly, you know, where something's happening and it's tense. It's a big, crazy combat or whatever's going on. And people can, you know, push and pull and try to do that stuff. It's usually, I think more what you're talking about, Sean, is kind of planning, you know, versus, you know, emergent something that happens in the game. If someone goes, hey, get over here, I got an idea. Okay, great. My character gets over there, and Hobbs is like, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to drop you on top of him. What? No, dude, you got plenty of hit points. Push, you know, or whatever happens. I mean, that type of emergent kind of thing is fun, but I think what you're talking about is more meta initiative-y thing. At least it feels that way.
Well, you could incorporate it into the game.
Totally could.
Like that's what I'm saying is like, so, right. Hey, hold the door. I'm going to throw this guy through it or whatever. Right. And you yell it out in the open.
Yeah, that's totally cool.
Something along those lines.
Oh, that's
right.
cool.
I thought maybe you were going to say some great setup that you had in 5e or something that you guys all planned out or something like that. I didn't know. Because that game seems like you could maybe create more dynamic between characters during a combat. Just because of the actions that you would take, where obviously it's way more up in the air for like an older school game. But like, do you have an example, Sean, or what? I'd be curious to hear, like, if you've seen that before or.
No, not necessarily. I mean, I think there's times where I don't think that happens enough. I think that the meta is spoken first. I think it's like, hey, how about your guy open the door and then I'm going to go ahead and cast a spell. It's got a 5-foot push. It'll be able to push him through there and into the pit. Okay, sounds good. That's what I do. Versus, okay, it's actually happening. I need somebody to open the door so I can, you know, push this guy in there or whatever and blah, blah, blah. Or I say it in some goofy language so the bad beastie doesn't understand me or understand our tactics and what we're doing. So I think the former happens more often than the latter.
I think that's a preference and a comfort thing. Not everybody is comfortable speaking in character.
Oh, for sure.
And I think some groups and players aren't quite into it.
Well, then they shouldn't be in my goddamn game. They shouldn't be in my game. All right. So let's just.
They're not. Nobody likes to play with you, really. So.
All I hear is these games that Sean talks about, not that he ever actually plays. So I don't even think he actually runs games.
Me and my friends in Niagara Falls, we play all the time.
I don't know what that means.
So I think another piece of combat story when I heard this, when Jason brought it up to me, I was thinking about it during the show at different points. I do recall a lot of the kung fu style movies, the old Jackie Chan's and Bruce Lee's and stuff. There was the whole premise of going to a master, learning, Kill Bill and all that stuff. There's a reason for the fight. That's a huge component for the story itself. Even Rocky, for crying out loud, train, go to the fight, watch Clubber Lang smack, Mickey upside the head and then everything goes to hell on him and so on and so forth. Those fights are huge components of the story itself, and then the way the dialogues again during the fight occur and how people act and so on. It drives the story, which is, I guess, when I hear this, my first thought is, yeah, if you're having fights that aren't driving any real story, they're just looking at the NPCs or whomever it is, just juicy bags of hit points and something to kick the living shit out of because whatever, then that's just not. I guess that's okay, but generally speaking, that's not for me. I would rather have a reason for the combat, even if it's something as simple as, hey, this is a bandit stronghold, and they really would rather not, be murdered because they like being here and, pillaging the countryside. That's their whole premise. I think that's a hell of a lot more interesting than, well, there happens to be bandits here. Let's just go kill bandit nameless number 1, 2 through 10 or whatever.
I would totally agree.
So there.
I concur with Brett. Sean
just sitting there pouting.
This is ridiculous.
No, it's good. It's good. It's good stuff.
I mean, you don't like it? You don't like it?
No, it's fine. I'm not being grumpy.
You can actually see
not
it
because of the topic anyway. It's all good.
Am I tapping again? Is that what's happening?
No.
Oh, all right, good. No, I was going to say that even in like some of the more popular media that people use for their games, like Lord of the Rings, that whole story between Gimli and Legolas was almost totally taken from during combat. So, when they were counting during Pelennor Field's battle, how many people they defeated or whatever, it really let the viewer see what sort of relationship they had, where
that was Helm's Deep
in other parts of the movie. No.
It started in Helm's Deep and then it moved to Pelennor Fields. Pelennor Fields are outside of Gondor.
Continued, yeah. I know where fucking Pelennor Fields are, Brett. Thank you.
That was fun.
It still counts as one. I was thinking of the
still counts as one.
The Mumakil, yeah. So, all right. Anyway, after that,
I think so. So, Sean, I guess in Hobbs, you play a lot online with tons of different people. Do you run into the games where the combat's just combat? It's just like this is gonna sound harsher than I mean it to, where it's basically just a computer game, right? I mean, if you play World of Warcraft, wherever you go out and, oh, look, I got a quest. I got to go kill 52 Was-It beasts. All right, so I'm off to go kill the amazing Was-Its and fucking whatever, and you go slaughter 50 of them or whatever. Do you ever end up in games like that?
I think there are times that occurs because I think everything in moderation. I don't think you can tell great stories in every single combat. I think there's some times where a fight is just a fight. But I do believe that a good GM or a GM who is interested in creating interactive stories with people or discovering stories together is going to add that to his game. Like in Paul Wolf's game, I know that he randomly rolled a tribe of humans that we got in a fight with. And so during that fight, we kind of learned over time that this was a raiding group and they were probably part of a larger group. And it was during the fight that we learned that, because they fled and we didn't really chase them because it was kind of a standoff. But because we had learned that made us, we better track these guys and find out how many people are raiding into this territory, that we live in. So that created a situation. Or like in Eric's game when I'm playing, we could just be fighting a bunch of zombies and an acolyte. But by increasing what the acolyte is saying, or if he's calling for reinforcements to someone, it lets us kind of know that, there's actually a dude in the keep that's part of this band. You learn a lot of things during those combats, and that is makes it better for sure. I mean, if we're just in another grinded out battle, sometimes that is what it's going to be, but I would say that it enhances the game a lot when you see these aspects happening. Man, I forgot the question.
That's okay. Honestly, to Sean's credit, when I played in his Star Wars game, every combat we had, there was story behind it. I mean, there was. I mean, even when we accidentally picked fights or we would go somewhere, we would do something, all the NPCs reacted in, not just, roll for initiative, and just wail the crap out of each other, shoot guns at each other and move on. there are reasons why they were after us. We were either talking to somebody we were trying to sell something, and hey, smugglers, a bunch of smugglers get together. Guess what? Somebody gets shot. This is what happened. Just as Greedo. So everything that happened in that game from a combat perspective, even when we got chased through through space, there were still problems. And all those problems, all the combats and the real stressful situations we got into, even though we dug our fair share of our own graves on those, it was still all story-based stuff, which I think made, not only just because the FFG approach from a system perspective, but I think because Sean set it up like that, it became much more entertaining to go through the fights and see what we did. Even when I was sitting on the ship trying to blast people with big ship guns, which drove Sean bananas, but it was still, I thought it made all the encounters a lot more fun to be a part of.
All right. Oh, go ahead.
For the record, Brett can shoot other people with spaceship guns. But what he can't do and shouldn't be able to do is use lasers like artillery fire. From miles away.
It worked.
From a ship that is parked on the ground.
Yeah, that sounds a little weird. All right, but
you had to be there.
I shouldn't have, probably.
I was one of those yes and guys.
Did you deflect it off the moon, or
I don't know why. It was just a momentary lapse of reason on my.
All right, so here I got something for you. So we're saying pretty much that we usually try to do this. How, if someone doesn't normally do it, and if their combats are just combats, how do you think a nascent GM or a beginner, you would advise them to add that aspect to their game?
So from my perspective, I think one of the easiest things to do is, as corny as it is not every animal and not every creature fights to the death. So in your D&D game, whatever variation on that theme, you fight kobolds. At some point, the kobolds either give up, run away, and be like, what? They run, they do stuff. It's an intro piece, right? Hey, if they're running away, they value something, either just their lives, or they're going to report back to somebody that, hey, we just got our collective asses kicked. We should really go get the bugbears to come take care of this. The other component is if you have, like you were talking about zombies and an acolyte or somebody, having that person, even if something as corny as, I shouldn't say corny, but as typical as their dying breath is, Ragnar will get you for this, and he keels over. Who the fuck is Ragnar? What's that about? That's that whole combat. You killed him. You just learned a thing through the combat. Hey, all of these zombies, you look at them, they're all dressed like sailors. What the hell are they dressed like sailors for? We're in the middle of a freaking desert. Where the hell did sailors come from? That is a piece of story. Adding weird components to how people dress and look. And even I have done this where your typical hobgoblins from First Ed and so forth tend to have kind of a almost a samurai type of armor. At least all the ones I tend to see, the old school art, it was like a banded armor with the samurai type styling. Changing the look and feel of a monster. And people are like, that's weird. And then come to find out, oh, these goblins are hobgoblins. They live in a swamp. And because of that, they dress and act and think differently. That, again, adds a little bit of story to the game. That's some of the stuff I've done. Jason, what do you do?
What do you think, Sean?
No,
oh, me, I'm first. It's your show, so I'll go.
No, that's okay.
I think that, yeah, those are all great. The biggest aspect comes down to figuring out what makes this battle mean something, right?
Yeah.
So as soon as you know what it means, now you can add aspects to that combat that'll allow that story to get told. If you don't know what it means, and basically all you are is you just wrote some goblins or 9 giant rats and 2,000 copper pieces, then that's all it's going to be. But if you've actually realized ahead of time, or even when you rolled the random encounter or whatever, you're like, oh, these guys are going to, they've actually been driven out by a stronger force of tribe or whatever. Okay, well, that's going to come out in the story then during the combat. But if you have no idea, you're not going to be able to tell that story. So I would say either prep enough or be prepared in a way that you can make your combats have meaning through story. That would be my advice.
Yeah, even if you had a list of things that, hey, these are some things that might work, almost your own random chart of reasons why we're in a fight. And if you're not willing, or not willing, that's hard. if you don't have the chops where you're like, look, on the fly, I can come up with 62 reasons why these goblins are fighting you. Not everybody can do that simply out of lack of experience, or some people don't think as quick on their feet as others do. I know I've been caught flat-footed sometimes. So I go to the well of things I've done in the past that always work for me. So I've got some, oh shit, I need something here. One of these, that ought to work. It always works. You pull that one out, dead babies, whatever. So yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah. Why is this fight here? Are these aliens here solely to stop us from gaining access to the trading on this planet, or is there something about the space station? Why are they here and why do they want to fight? That makes sense.
Yeah, like on my random tables, I'll do. Sometimes I won't just do like a creature. I'll actually do I have a whole list of like what the encounter could be with, and then another table that goes along with it that will be just like, what are these creatures doing? So then it'll come up and say Knowles raiding, or something slaving or fleeing or just gathering or whatever. That way I already know what they're there for. And so you can maybe learn that as you go. So that's one of the things I do.
Oh, that's cool.
Sean P. Kelly.
I'm more on you guys are more on the grander scheme of things. It sounds like the combat ties to some event within the campaign story arc where, I think even just on a micro level, the monologue, the things that are said during the combat, you're never gonna survive the wrath of Monologue. Who's Monologue?
I thought you were going to start a song. You're never going to survive unless. I thought you were going to start singing.
A little nice, crazy.
Little seal on you, man.
Yeah. Jam. Me and Hobbs and Friends is going to jam.
So you're saying more micro, not so big?
Well, I mean, you can do what you're saying is like the combat is specifically tied to a bigger plot point or whatever the case is, where you could still incorporate it in on the micro level where it's like on the single combat. Maybe it's a recognition of the uniforms of the opposing party, and then somebody says something, or they bring up some secret or something's divulged during the combat. So maybe you're playing it out and you're like, okay, everything's going, and then you see somebody come out from the shadows and start talking about something or other, that, like I said, you cannot survive the death grip of Monologue.
Oh my God.
Who the hell's Monologue? Now we have to find out who Monologue is.
Would you actually name one of your NPCs Monologue?
He's my big ass badass dude. He's in my next adventure. He's gonna TPK the entire party.
Nice. No, I mean, that's good. I wasn't really saying that they would be big events because I don't write any meta plots in my stories. I just take what happens and then create plot out of that emergent story. So as the game goes, it creates itself. As soon as you add a little bit, then it's going to just build. Even like you just said, even though it was on the micro level, now you created a bad guy that exists. Who was that guy or what's going on? It's the exact same thing. Yeah, totally. That's exactly what we're talking about when we're saying, combat is story, even if you're just making story as you go along. So that's better than making a big plot up ahead of time anyway. That's what I think anyway.
I think that the important thing though, Jason, as you said, is, how do you, if you're trying to do something like this and you're like, well, why? Yeah, totally want to do that. Oh boy, these fights have been kind of just juicy bags of hit points who spill coins. How can we change that? Simple thing. A little bit of monologue. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, as a player, you could, my buddy Jimmy, he's playing a barbarian. Of course, he's always got to or somebody in my group plays some hack and slash, I don't know, fighter, Jimmy or Brian, where they take the ears off their enemy. But they could easily turn that into sitting around the campfire and talking about oh, I remember this one. I got this one at the Battle of the Broken Hill. And then I got this one over by the Red River. That motherfucker, some bitch, blah, blah, blah. And, whatever.
And Sean, that's actually a really good point too. I mean, apart from the game master stuff that the three of us have thrown out, from a player's perspective, you can help the game master find the story in the fight, right? Boy, they all look the same. Wow, really? Bunch of goblins with longsword. That seems strange. Wonder where they got those. And the game master will look at you like you've got, the third head. Go, what the fuck? What do you mean? Why is that a big deal? Oh, goblins normally just have crude hand weapons. It's kind of strange to have that. Or, wow, these guys are from City Alpha 5. It's strange they don't have weird bugs in their heads. Or whatever the case is,
I find in examples like that, Brett, you gotta tell them.
Oh, otherwise they won't catch it. They won't catch it
you gotta
otherwise.
Tell them that. You
gotta tell them.
They won't know it. Like, they all have long swords. Oh, cool. Okay, well, I grab one. All right. Like, there's no relevancy to it if you don't tell them. Like, duh, this is odd. They all have long swords. Goblins don't carry long swords.
Oh, I see. Well, this is why I'm saying is that players should or could step up and grab onto that stuff and help make story out of combat themselves.
Yeah, he's talking about sourcing the table and allowing them to do that.
Yeah.
If the GM didn't even think about it, oh no, yeah, they got long swords. Oh wait, then and a player comes out, and then you just go, yeah, that is weird.
After
monologue.
Yeah, after round 10 of us beating the shit out of these kobolds, and I look over at Hobbs and go, "Fuck, these kobolds haven't broken yet. What the hell is their morale, man?" Damn, even that meta of a thing is something where Hobbs would go, "Shit, I haven't rolled morale." Or no, there's a reason why they fight to the death, because Monologue won't let them retreat because they have a fate worse than death. I mean, those are things that even in a meta type of way, you can ask the question of the game master. There's no reason not to do that. Again, as you said, Jason, it's kind of source the table for it. Players can step right up.
Yeah, and then just go with them, right? That's what the GM should do. If they want to, unless you're Sean, then you just say, no, that's stupid.
No, that's stupid. You're stupid for thinking about it. Where's your dog? I'm going to kick your dog.
All goblins have long swords.
I'm a little more subtle than that, but I don't think I would call a player stupid. Maybe a little ignorant or naive, but...
naive.
Nice. Have we wrapped this up? Have we killed this horse?
Oh, what a cute... What a cute little idea you had there, player. That's so sweet. Maybe when you grow up, you can be a game master. All right, let's
die roll. Motor scooters. 2 to 4 miscellaneous points of gaming and geekery we want to bring to you. Brett and I are sitting out this one.
Listeners, man. I mean, these guys came in heavy here. We've got Chris Shorb. He educated us on polyhedron names. An article by George Hart. Little link in the old show note there about different prefixes, suffixes for different types of polyhedrons, which is always cool if you're a gamer. Aswell Rocha pointed out a blog entry by Jonathan Hicks on tips on describing combat in an RPG. So, right to the point, of course, some little bits and pieces you can use to help add some story to your fighting. Sean, you gonna read the other ones?
Yeah, Tom Bagwell lets us know that the 1980 RPG Dark Conspiracy is coming back in 2018.
Holy crap.
Did you play Dark Conspiracy, Brett?
Did you ever play that?
You did?
No, I'm asking you if you ever did. I remember seeing the
not.
cover had Larry Elmore art. I remember that. And I knew some people who told me, oh, this is a great game. But that's as far as it ever went. Interesting.
Hobbs, you ever play that?
No, I do remember seeing the book, but man, I don't know anything about it. I think I have to put that on my tour, though. I mean, what would you call Dark Conspiracy? What kind of game was it? Do you know?
I got to imagine it's some type of espionage.
Urban type of... You don't think it's like
Dark
vampires
Conspiracy
or something?
had like... Yeah, I think there were vampires, ghouls, nasty things like that. We'll have to look it up. We'll have to click on the damn link is what we'll have to do.
Son of a biscuits.
Next.
Shit. Peter Skanes provides some creative inspiration about the ancient Roman cult that continues to vex scholars.
Is this the Mithras cult?
Ooh.
It's got to be the Mithras cult. Look at that. The old Mithras cult. Yes.
So you know something about this, Brett?
What's that? The Mithras cult. I ended up, believe it or not, Mithras was had a role in the vampire Dark Ages stuff. And it's been one of those weird culty things that pops up periodically. People, pagans thinking, oh, I know what the Mithras cult was about. It was all about this and whatnot. So it's kind of a funky little deal. Neat. I'll have to read up on that.
What's that last one up there, Hobbs?
All right, I got one. I have to give some props to my boy, Edwin Nagy. Is it Nagy or Nagy, Brett? Do you get it? I always get confused.
I say Edwin.
It's Nagy.
Edwin,
it isn't, though.
It
is Edwin. Anyway, he ran his 24-hour extra life game yesterday, and I talked about it on my podcast, and I get an opportunity here because you guys asked me on to say how awesome he is. But anyhow, I got the link there to the actual NEG team, which Edwin runs, and they made more than $2,000 yesterday on their 24-hour game for the children hospitals. So that was pretty darn 7,000 for the year for my team with Edwin. So that's pretty exciting. You can check it out at that link. So
that's awesome. Edwin's an awesome dude. That is cool.
So check it out, people.
Yeah, way to go, Edwin and team there. And thanks for everybody that's supplied a link or two to let us know, to pass it along to the rest of the crowd. Much appreciated. I want to put this out there again. I mentioned it on, I don't know if it was the last episode, but definitely the one prior to that. Lawful Good Gaming. We want to see if there's a story out there. I think I have one to follow up. But if there's somebody doing good work that involves gaming, whether it's however they're using it to better society, I guess, for lack of better words, we want to know about it. I want to interview them briefly. Feel free to pass along our contact info or get us their contact info, and I'll reach out to them and set up a time, explain to us what kind of the deal is, and then put that into the shows coming up. So if there's somebody doing good work through gaming, could be tabletop, could be RPGs. We're not fussy. We want to know about it. So let us know if you know somebody or if you're doing it, right?
James from Glowburn, he does his Lawful Good.
James Walls. That's right.
Isn't it called Lawful Good something? Isn't that the name of they do a lot of donations.
Well, maybe I might have to change the name of the segment. I think it is something like that.
No, but they don't do it on their show. That's just his own gaming group that they get money for different charities and stuff. So you should talk to Forrest and get a hold of James, because he does some good stuff.
That's cool shit.
Yeah.
Cool.
But I will follow up with James. I'm friends with him on Facebook, and I've met him, and he's a good guy, so I will double check. But if it is the same name, I definitely don't want to get the two confused.
Well, it's not on their show, so.
Well, still, it's a thing he's doing. Is that
All right,
the same
man.
thing? It's not
No.
the same thing? No, it's not the same thing. See, that's my point. Right?
I'm going to start a new podcast called Random Encounter.
You are so sued.
So gonna kick your ass.
Do it.
All
Hit 'em.
right. What Abe, let's do skill check. Hobbs,
All
you
right.
ready for skill check?
Maybe I should get another glass of water. I don't know. No, I'm ready. Let's go.
All right. So, as you may know, this is kind of a lightning round that we have guests partake in. So, I guess you are a guest officially. So, ready, Hobbs? Did you
I'm
study?
ready.
All right.
I forgot
GM or player?
GM.
All right. Screen or no screen?
No screen.
Modules or original content?
Original content. Do I get to talk about why I answered the questions the way I did? or
Sure,
no?
absolutely, man. Yeah, go ahead, man.
I started playing a long time ago, like in the late 70s. And I think for the first few years I was a player, but ever since then, I've pretty much always been a GM for my face-to-face groups and, equally GM online. So as far as screens go on my online game, I actually have a screen up most of the time. And I found when I was trying to run the game, I would put it up, but then I always just take it down because I want to be able to see everyone. I stand most of the time. Brett actually had a picture of me doing a Captain Morgan at Gaming and BS because I'm just standing up there with my foot up on my chair, talking to everybody. And lastly, I love running. There's a very good published adventures out there, and I love reading them. And I'm always excited about them, but I always feel that I just don't have the vested interest in them as a GM that I do my own stuff. I don't know why. I just don't have the ability maybe to read it and take it in and then play it however I want using that information. I find myself just doing what it says instead. And I just feel like it comes off flat. So I really prefer my own made up stuff better because of that.
I have the same problem, dude.
Yeah, I've totally seen it. I didn't realize it. Why? I'm like, man, all my DCC games suck. It's because I wasn't creating my own stuff. I was always just using stuff that they had, and then when it's happening, I'm like, oh, I really don't care what happens. Ha ha, keep doing what you do. And I'm like, well, maybe that's why this feels so goddamn boring then. Because I don't care. Maybe if I cared, then it would be more fun, but so that's why I would say that. That was awesome. I liked the lightning round. I'm going to have
We're not done yet, goof. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Balanced encounter or screw balance?
Screw balance.
Boom.
EX all the way, bud.
Favorite RPG?
Adventure Conqueror King system. I'm still going to say that, even though I haven't played it in quite a few years. I just really like the idea of the economy having such a important aspect of the game throughout, as opposed to something that was tacked on back in the day.
So the RPG you're playing in the next week or month?
Guaranteed I'm playing BX, because Eric is supposed to run the big end finale of Keep on the Borderlands that we've been playing for 4 years, I think, on and off.
Whoa, is that the Hoff?
The Hoff, yeah. It was a drop-in, drop-out game that, I mean, Edwin's played in that. I mean, almost anyone who's anyone has played in it. So you guys know where you guys rank.
Oh,
I'm just kidding. No, it's always been an open game. So anyone who wanted to come could come. But a few of us have stuck with it. It used to just be a holiday game. So my cat finally came back and made his debut on your show now. She's been on a few shows, Cleo. So good job, Cleo.
that's lovely.
Sorry, got some more?
No, that's it.
Oh,
So
those are great.
Yes, thank you for taking part in Skill Check. What is going on with Hobbs now? There's talk of another show. What's that all about, Hobbs?
Yeah, I mean, Jose is starting up supposedly his own podcast network. He's just got like, oh, I already got a website. I'm learning everything. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. And I'm like, well, we could do Hex Talk. And he's like, yep, that's what we should do. I'm going to keep on doing Hobbs and Friends of the OSR with the Misdirected Mark. But Hex Talk is going to be its own show on its own network, apparently, a network of one.
It's got to start somewhere.
Yeah, we've been talking a lot. I think people really seem to enjoy the dynamic of that group for some reason. You know, Hobbs and Friends will probably die because the only reason it's been around is because once in a while X Talk was on. I don't know. We'll see.
So where can everybody find you, Jason Hobbs?
I'd say I'm on Google Plus the most, Jason Hobbs, or I can be on the Twitters at Hobbs Indeed. I'm on Facebook, Jason Hobbs. I've got pages all over the place for Hobbs and Friends of the OSR. OSR and Hobbs on Twitter, and Hobbs and Friends of the OSR on Google Plus. Or Hobbs and Friends at misdirectedmark.com if you want to email me. Top that.
Thanks for being here, man.
Oh, no, it was great. I appreciate it. I feel like I strong-armed you into it somehow. I was surprised.
No. It's fine.
Sean
and I
Totally
Sean and I had nothing else to
Brett.
talk. Sean and I had nothing else to talk about. Like, fuck, let's just get Hobbs on here. I need some kind of a dancing dog. Come on, bring out the Hobbs. Make it work.
We got to try and get some new listeners up in this place. No. I mean, 166 and you guys are out already, Brett. I don't know. That doesn't bode well for gaming in VS.
No, we're still here. We're still good.
I'm just kidding.
What are we talking? Speaking of next episode, what are we talking about next week, Brett?
Talking about families, man. Player characters and their families. It was one of the things that came up from my gaming group. They asked me, is everybody else terrified of having families in your games, Brett, or is it just us? So I thought, hey, let's talk about that. So that'll be fun.
Might have to reference Xanathar's Guide to Everything. It's got some things of character backgrounds that actually you can roll on a random table to see if you have parents or not.
Oh, neat. I haven't read that
It
yet.
was interesting.
Yeah.
Here, let me take a second to thank you guys. I really do appreciate it. Like, I mean, I'm not saying I used to listen to this podcast and think I could do better, and that's why I started my own or anything. But
it's okay if you think that's the case. That's cool.
No, it isn't. Sean, I went straight to you to ask you everything. So even though I had Chris, an old veteran in podcasting, I still wanted to ask you a bunch of questions, and you continually help me out and make my show better for sure. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. So if you haven't listened to Hobbs and Friends of the OSR, go over and check up Hobbs and his friends of the OSR. What kind of things do you cover on that show, Hobbs?
Normally I'm doing an interview. Sometimes it's someone who is that you might know of. Most likely it's not. It's just somebody I know that games. And we pretty much talk about what we're playing and how it relates to the OSR. Like a lot of times we don't get dive deep or anything like that, but we will include mechanics and why we use the mechanics we do. And you'll hear some house rules for some old school games like BX and Menser's Beck Me or whatever, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that goes into it. I think mostly it's a kind of a talk show like this show is, a lot of bullshitting going on for sure, but people seem to like it. And I always ask people why they like it, because I don't know. I have no idea why anyone listens, but apparently they do. So
Very cool.
Why the hell would somebody like that show?
You listen every week or every
I do.
other week.
I do listen to it. Of course I do.
Yeah. It's fun. I have some good guests. I mean, Jose and Eric are awesome. So that Hex Talk will be good too, because those guys are hilarious. I'm a little funny, but I mean, they're really funny. So
well, excellent. This has been another episode of Gaming in BS. I'm one of your hosts, Sean.
And I'm Brett. Good night and good game and all.
night, everybody.
So thanks, Hobbs. So this episode of Gaming and BS brought to you with the help from the following patrons: Christian Sexy Voice Serrano, Kevin Lovecraft, Joe Swick, Brett's biggest fan, Forrest Gary, Mark Antiti Benedetti, Eric Jeppesen, Andy Hall, Sean Nicholson, Tim Jensen, Knights of the Night Crew, Palladian, Remy Bilodeau, Jason Hobbs, Wayne Humfleet, James Carpio, Not Caprio, Pierre Mongrel, Lord Tentacle, Corey Johnson, Brandon Barnes, Tim Shorts, Dan LaValle, C.W. Mellencamp, Lost Sailor, Graham Miner, Todd McGowan, Roger Brassett, Misdirected Mark Productions, Old School DM, Jason, Christopher Gray, Finnulf, Mirko Vroylik, Eileen Barnes, Tony Sugarloaf Baker, Todd Crapper, Jim Fitzpatrick, Michael Drescher, Whit Static, Alexander Auerbach, Rodrigo Beowulf, Neil Benson, Ron Blessing, Chris Steele, Eric the Hoffman, Soldiers of Misfortune RPG, Christopher Lang, Curtis Takahashi, Gordon Cranford, Mark Tasaka, Larry Hout, Evan Harrison Cass, Ray Otis, Mark, CMG Clover, Eli Kurtz, Ron Bishop, Stephen Dragonspawn, Craig Huber, Xavier G, JV, John Hammersley, Derelict Radio, John, Steve, Jared Rasher, Mark, Richmond, Thomas, Hook, Jonathan, Towlby, and Blake Ryan. For the cost of a coffee shop coffee, you can support the show for an entire month. Consider heading over to gamingmbs.com/Patreon. That's Patreon. Thank you, patron friends. Thank you, listeners.